So we have these ACE questions that we're gonna do 7, and then these tops inshallah if we have time. So it's 7 ACE questions. Let's just start over here. Question 2, question 2, page 4. Okay, so we're gonna start here. Over here we have this question here. The graph of the function. They told us that it passes through a point 3, 2, and its right side limit is 4/3. Alright, cool. They're asking us to find values of a and b. So what did they give us? They told us that it passes through the point 3, 2. So yani f of 3 is equal to 2. And they told us that the right side limit at x equals 1 is 4/3. So they also told us that the right side limit at x equals 1, so the limit as x approaches 1 plus of the function f of x is equal to 4/3. They're asking us to find a and b. Over here, which we have ax plus b. Exactly. So when we substitute 3, we should get 2. So let's substitute 3. We're gonna get a times 3 plus b, and the answer to that should be 2. So we're gonna get our first expression. That's 3a plus b equals 2. But is it enough? Is one equation enough for 2 variables? No. We need another equation. So we're going to use the fact that the right side limit is equal to 4/3. How do we find the right side limit? You substitute 1 into the right side. So it's going to be a times 1 plus b, and it's equal to 4/3. So we're going to get that our second equation is a plus b equals 4/3. Now, how can you find a and b? There's so many different ways. One way is to simply you can use equation mode, or my favorite way is to subtract, like you said. So we're going to do this. Why can I subtract? Because we have 1 here, so we can cancel it out. So 3a minus a is 2a, and then 2 minus 4 equal akid. 2 minus 4/3 is 2/3. So you're gonna get that a is equal to 1/3. And then we also want b, so let's throw this into here. We're gonna get that. I don't know why there's a negative here. We're gonna get that a, which is 1/3, plus b equals 4/3 from this equation, huh? And b is equal to 1. So nice and easy. Part A, very easy. Now let's take a look at part B. Find the values of k for which f is continuous at x equals 1. Now, if you're doing this in your exam, don't just start solving. Have some reasoning, because these exams won't be corrected in Sharjah, they won't be corrected in Aligned, won't be corrected wherever you're watching this from, whatever. It's central correcting. Maybe they're in Sharjah. I actually don't know which school it is this year. But anyways, so make your work clear. To be continuous, we have 3 conditions that must be met. The left limit of the function must be equal to the right limit of the function, and that must be equal to f of 1. Write this down, because you never know, they may deduct marks on it, okay? You never know, wallah. Anyways, basically, if it's continuous, and this here must be equal to the bottom one. And everyone knows how to solve exercises like this. How do we do it? Let's start. The left limit will be x minus k. Remember, we're doing it at x equals 1, so instead of x, I'm gonna put 1. So it's gonna be 1 minus k over 2 radical 1 minus radical 1 plus 3 equals the right side, which is ax plus b. We figured out a to be 1/3. So it's 1/3 times x, which is 1, plus b, which is 1. So we're gonna rewrite this a bit, clean it up a bit. It's gonna be 1 minus k over 2 radical 1 minus radical 1 plus 3 equals, this is on the calculator, is actually 4/3. Yeah? So how can you do this? We just cross multiply, no? So we're simply gonna get 3 times 1 minus k equals 4 times all of this. Now all of this is actually equal to 0, by the way. Okay, so 4 times 0, which is 0. Now 3 times 1 minus k is 0. You're gonna get 1 minus k is equal to 0, and you're gonna get that k is equal to 1. Alright. For question 2, I'll take it here, open board. They gave us a function, radical 10x minus x squared, between 0 and 10, and they're asking us to find the derivative, f prime of x. How do we find the derivative? I think everyone should know how to do this. 10x minus x squared, we change it to the power of half. Then you put an arrow. F prime of x will then be equal to half times 10x minus x to the power of negative half, because we subtract 1 for the power, and multiplied by the derivative of once inside. This 10x minus x squared, no? Okay. multiply by the derivative of what's inside, which is 10 minus 2x exactly. So we're gonna end up getting 10 minus 2x over 2 radical 10x minus x squared. Yeah. Now we can actually cancel out this 2 because they're asking us to find f prime of x, so it's best to submit our answer to simplest form because you never know if they want to deduct marks. We can cancel the 2 up and down, so you can factor out 2 up, it becomes 2 5 minus x over 2 radical 10x minus x squared, and now you can cancel the 2's, so you're gonna get 5 minus x over radical 10x minus x squared. Then part B, it says write an equation for the tangent at x equals 2. Now, how do we find the tangent point? How do we find the equation to the tangent? There's 3 steps. Hella, I just explained this to 12L today. First step is to find your y. I always tell you find your y because to find an equation of a line, you need an x and a y. Now, many people do this step later on, but later on your work gets really messy, so it will be hard to go back all the way. So step 1, find your complete point. Find your y. Step 2 is to derive and plug in x, because when you derive and plug in x, what does that give you? To get the slope. So when you plug in the x into the derivative, you get the slope of the tangent. Then 3, now you have your y, you now have your slope. How do you find the equation of the tangent then? You simply do y is equal to mx plus b. So let's do it. Let's find our y. They're saying at x equals 2. To find y, you substitute there. So let's find what's f of 2. It's radical 10 times 2 minus 2 squared, which is 4. So our point is 2 comma 4. Great, so first step is done. Derive, we already derived in part A. Derive, we already derived in part A, so we have the expression of the derivative. So step 2 now, this was step 1. Step 2 is to derive and plug in our x. Our x is 4, so let's plug in our x. So it's 5 minus 4 over radical 10 times 4 minus 4 squared, and that's I feel like that's, I think I'm wrong. I went wrong somewhere. 5 minus x. I did 5 minus y. Y is 4. I don't know. X is 2. Sorry, huh? Yeah, let me fix this. So 5 minus x. So 5 minus x is 2 over radical 10 times 2 minus 2 squared, which is 3 over 4. Great. So we now found our slope. Step 3 is just to do y equals mx plus b. So y is equal to mx plus b. Our y is 4. Our slope m is 3 over 4. Our x is 2 plus b. You're going to get b is equal to 5 over 2. Now, knowing that b is equal to 5 over 2, we can write our equation as y is equal to 3 over 4x plus 5 over 2. Because we have our m, we have our b now, so we can write it like this. So for part C, they're saying, let g be the function where g of x is f of x from 0 to 8, and then k minus 3 over 4x from 8 to 10. What do they want? They're saying k is a constant. Find k for which g is continuous at x equals 8. So let's start with part C. If something is continuous, that means the left limit of g of x must be equal to the right limit of g of x must be equal to g of 8. Please don't forget to write this step in the written in case you lose marks. Okay, now that means we're just going to equate our left side to the right side. Type, okay. That means on the left side, we're going to start by doing this. Limit as x approaches 8 minus g of x equals f of 8, right? That means we're doing it x equals 8. So it's going to be f of 8. What's f of 8? Did we have f of x? Up here we had it, okay? So that means we're going to substitute 8 there. So radical 10 times 8 minus 8 squared, and you're going to get command 4. Okay? So you're going to get 4. Now let's evaluate the right limit. Limit as x approaches 8 plus g of x. How much is that going to be? That means you substitute 8 over here. So it's going to be k minus 3 over 4 times 8, which is k minus 6. Now we know that these two must be equal. So k minus 6 is 4, so k is equal to 10. Part D. For the value of k found in part C is g differentiable at x equals 8, show the work that leads to your conclusion. So to show that it's differentiable, there's two things that need to be going on. Okay, the first thing is that it's continuous. Well, the second thing is that the left differential equals the right differential. Now, we proved in part C that it's continuous. Okay, however, now we need to check the left differential and right differential. What's the left differential? Let's take a look. The left differential is the left differential is just deriving the left side, and f of x is this radical 10x. I'm going to put it like this. We already have the left differential. Actually, we derived it in part A. We found it. The left derivative is this. So left derivative, the left differential is 5 minus x over radical 10x minus x squared. The right differential is this. We need to derive this over here. I think everyone knows how to derive it. The function on the right is originally 10 minus 3 over 4x. So deriving it, the 10 is a constant, so it goes. So it's just negative 3 over 4. So simply, you have to show that 5 minus x over radical 10x minus x squared at x equals 8 is equal to negative 3 over 4. Let's check that. Substitute 8. You're going to get 5 minus 8 over radical 16 down here. And you get over here negative 3 over 4. Let's check it. 5 minus 8 is negative 3. Radical 16 is 4. So you get negative 3 over 4 equals negative 3 over 4, which is true. So therefore, it is differentiable at x equals 8. Now we have open response page 20. Let's go there. In this question, the open response, what they did is they gave you a table, and you're supposed to kind of like understand what's going on over here. So they gave you a function from 0 to 8, and they said that they gave you everything. No need to read all this. It's a lot of talking, but let's start. So for 0 to 8, find all values that have a relative local extremum. What's an extremum? Basically turning point. Okay, now let me continue reading and then I'll say. Then they say determine whether this is a local maximum or relative minimum at each of these values. Now, how do we check if it's a turning point? Turning point means the sign of f prime changes, from decreasing to increasing. F of x changes from decreasing to increasing, or maybe from increasing to decreasing. Also, the turning point, the extremum, may also be at the endpoints. Always the endpoints are considered as extremities. So 0 and 8 are considered, except they're not. Why aren't they considered in this question? Because as you can see, this is an open interval. What's an open interval? There's parentheses, so the 0 and 8 are not included. But if you look at your interval and it was 0, 8 square brackets, that means the 0 and 8 are included, and you would include them as your extremities. Anyways, so over here, to check your extremities, we simply look at our table and we check what's going on. As you can see here, we go that f prime of x is negative, so it goes decreasing, then goes negative again, so f prime of x is negative again, so the function is still decreasing. Then here it becomes positive, so it turns into increasing. So over here we have a turning point over here at x equals what? X equals 4. So at 4 comma negative 2, what's that, a minimum or a maximum? It's a minimum. It went from decreasing. So after that, is there anything else? After this it stays increasing. So this is the only turning point, and it's at 4. Type. Part B. Let g be a function such that g prime of x is f of x. Find all values of x at which g has an extreme. Determine whether g has a relative maximum or a relative minimum at each of these values. Justify your answer. So over here, we want to see if g has a relative maximum, or we want to see the extreme points of g, صح? So like we did for f, how do you check extreme points? You have to look at the derivatives. You have to look at g prime of x, right? Except we don't have g prime over here. We only have one relationship, and they told us that g prime is the same as f of x. So, for g, if you want to look at the extremities of g, you look at g prime. But we don't know anything about g prime other than g prime is the same as f of x. So if I want to look at the extreme points of g, I simply look at f of x. Okay? F of x is increasing, then it turns into decreasing. So over here, our first turning point is at 2, 0. and this is a maximum. Then we have decreasing, and it stays decreasing, then it turns to increasing over here at 6, 0 minimum point. Alright, so moving on. Now part C. For the function defined in part B, find all the values of x which the graph of G has an inflection point. Yani, if we're looking at G having an inflection point, yani G double prime changes sign, or G double prime equals 0, صح? So let's take a look. Over here, G double prime, but here's the thing. G double prime, صح? What do we have G here or F? We have all F's. So how do we relate G double prime to F? We know that G prime is f of x. So what would G double prime be? It would just be f prime of x. Let me fix this one second. G prime is f of x. So what would G double prime be? You just add the prime here and the prime here. So in other words, f prime of x changes sign, or f prime of x equals 0. Let's check. F prime of x changes sign over here at 4. Yeah, because it goes from minus to positive. So over here at 4. And it doesn't change sign again, but we see that f prime equals 0 at 6. So it has an inflection point at 4 and at 6. Alright. Now, sketch the graph of a function that has all the characteristics of f given in the table. So we basically need to sketch f of x now. How do we do this? Very easy. Let's start by doing our line هيك, then our line هيك, أكيد this is our x here and this is our y. Always label your axes. Okay, now our range is going from 0 to 8, so let's count 2 squares for each one. Actually we can do 2 squares for each one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, then we have our range. As you can see, our range goes from 3, 0, negative 2, 0, 4. So nothing too fancy. So we'll go up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then down here, negative 1, negative 2. Cool. Now we can plot our points because they gave us the table, so like everything is given to us. It's very easy. Okay, so 0, 3. Yeah, just take it from the table. It should be given to you depending on the question. So 0, 3, then 2, 0. You can't solve unless they give you the points. And then 4, negative 2, and then 6, 0, and then 8, 4. Now, you don't just connect these dots and khalas go home. La, there's some thinking you need to think about. Okay, they gave you the signs of f prime and f double prime for a reason. If f double prime is positive, that means it's concave up. If double prime is negative, then it's concave down. So let's say مثلا you want to go from 3, this point here, to this point here. You want to decrease, but are you going to decrease like this, or are you going to decrease like this? How do you know? Depending on the concavity. The concavity here is concave up. How does concave up look? Draw it on the side if you forget. Concave up looks like this. Concave down looks like this. Since it's concave up and I want to decrease, that means my decrease is going to look like this. Alright? So it's going to go like this. Now it's concave up. It's concave up until 2. Then from 2 to 4, it's concave down. So now when I want to continue decreasing, I don't just continue like this. No, I now have to change and continue like this. Yeah, so from 2 till 4, it's concave down. Now, I'm now going to go and increase to 6. And from 4 to 6, it's concave down. So my increase is going to be like this. So it's going to increase like this. Now, I want to increase up to 8, and from 6 to 8 it's concave up. So I'm going to increase like this. Okay, anyways, for this question here, it's easy. I think nothing too hard. You're just reading a table. فناو نحن we're doing question 25, page 1. Alright. Let's do it very easy. So they gave you now the function of h prime. And they're asking you a couple of questions. As you can see here, the interval is a closed interval now. So if they were to ask us about any extremities, we're going to include our endpoints because it's a closed interval now. Now, they're going to say, okay, determine relative maximum, minimum, whatever. Now, to solve these questions, I love better to write the table. It's they say justify your answer. You don't need to justify anything. If you write your table, خلاص, that's it. So the same way we did for the periodic, x, f of x, f prime of x, f double prime of x. Write your table. It helps you solve. Wallah. Okay. What points do we have? We have -3, -1. Let's write them all. -3, -1. Okay, that's too little space. -1, 0, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now let's see what's going on right now. What can we see? The first thing I can see is that it's decreasing up until -1. If h prime is decreasing, that means h double prime is negative from -3 to -1. So I'm going to put that here. It's -3 to -1. It's negative. Then it increases up until 1. So from -1 to 1, the second derivative is positive. It shouldn't be f, sorry. It should be a h. It doesn't make it because they said h. Okay. So it's positive. And then from 1 until 4 it decreases. So negative هيك. Then from 4 up until 6 it's positive. Okay, cool. Now what else can we see? We can also see that h prime is negative from -3 to 0. And then it's positive from 0 up until 3. Then it's negative from 3 to 5. And then from 5 to 6 it's positive again. What does this mean? This means that from -3 to 0 we're decreasing. Then from 0 to 3 we're increasing. Then from 3 to 5 we're decreasing. And then from 5 to 6 we're increasing again. Okay, cool. Now, we did this. Determine the values of x for which h has a relative maximum and relative minimum. Now we can check here which one are the maximum and minimum. We can see before we start, you check your endpoints. Is it a closed interval? Yes. If it's a closed interval, then you need to include it. Now, that means we're going to include -3 in our extreme points. But how do I know if it's a minimum or maximum? Let's take a look at -3. As you can see here, -3, it starts at -3, then it decreases. So obviously in that vicinity, in that neighborhood, -3 is the highest point, so it's an extremity. Okay, so -3 is a max. Because it's high and then it decreases. Type then, 6. As you can see here, 6, they had to increase to reach 6. So that means 6 is also another maximum. So we're not done, huh? These are the two endpoints. Then, that's the first thing you check, is always the endpoints. In the other question, in the previous one, it was an open interval, so I didn't include these 0 and 8 because it's parentheses. But now since it's square brackets, I'm including these two. Cool. Now, moving on, you're going to check from your table which one's a minimum, which one's a maximum. As you can see here, it decreased, then increased. So obviously, x equals 0 is a minimum. And then over here at 3, it increased, then decreased. So x equals 3 is a maximum. And then 5 is a minimum. Alright, very easy. Nothing too hard. Okay, so we have maximums at -3, 3 and just 6. And then minimums are at 0 and at 5. Cool. Determine the values of x for which h has an inflection point. When do we have inflection points? We have inflection points when h double prime changes sign, صح? When does it change sign? So over here at -1, at 1, at 4, and that's pretty much it. So -1, 1, and at 4. Very easy, guys, until now, يعني مش شايف شيء too hard. Then they say sketch the graph of h given that we got a couple of points. Okay, let's sketch. It's always interesting when they give you sketching questions. Now we have a negative x value. We're starting at negative, so I'm going to extend it to the left a bit. So let's see here. So this is negative 1, it's negative 2, and this is negative 3. Over here we have 1, 2. We're going up until 6, so let's just go there. 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, cool. Now what are our y values? Let's just sketch all these y values. H of negative 3, h of 3, h of 6, they're all equal to 4. So let's increase 1, 2, 3, 4. So all of these points are equal to 4. So negative 3, 4, 3, 4, and 6, 4. And then h of 0 is 0, so over here you have a 0. And the h of 5 is 3. Exactly. So now we have to obviously decrease from this point to this point, but we need to decrease in a proper way. Now, we can see that from negative 3 to negative 1, we're going to decrease concave down, because it's negative. Again, if you forget, just draw it. This is concave down, this is concave up. Okay, so if I'm decreasing in a concave down manner, I'm going to decrease like this. Right, so we're going to decrease like that up until negative 1. So we're going to decrease here. Then when I reach negative 1, I'm going to change, because after negative 1 becomes positive. So over here I'm going to change, I'm going to start decreasing. No, that's ugly. I'm going to decrease like this. So then we want to go from this 0, we're going to increase up until this 4. And we're going to increase concave up until 1. So we're going to increase up until 1, I'm going to increase concave up. Happy face. Okay? And then from 1 up until 3, it's concave down. So if I want to increase, I'm going to increase the same way I increase in this concave down manner. So I'm not going to continue هيك. لا. I'm going to increase هيك. هلا. That's bad. Okay. And then from 3 we're going to decrease down up to 5, but it's concave down till 4. So if I want to decrease in a concave down manner, yeah, I'm gonna decrease like this, so it's gonna be here. But we're gonna do that up until 4 only. Then at 4 هلا I switch to concave up, so I don't decrease continue هيك. لا, I have to decrease هيك now. And now from 5 to 6 it's concave up for a happy face. This is the graph. Now we finish this one. Hello, we're on these. Okay. Alright. Over here for question 1, we're on now question 1 and 2 for over here. Pages 34 and 35. Consider the curve given by this, show that dy by dx equals that. Now, this is an implicit equation, so simply we can just derive, and we need to find an expression for y prime. So let's derive this. X squared becomes 2x. 2y squared becomes 4y. Y prime. Don't forget the y prime, please don't forget it. Equals 7 goes, it's a constant. Xy, the derivative of xy. Use product rule. Use x, v is y. So u prime is 1. V prime is y prime. So it's u prime v, so y. Plus v prime u, so y prime x. So I'll just put xy prime. Anyways, so this is our derivative. Now we want an expression for dy by dx. To do this, that means you want y prime to be equal to something. Whenever you want y prime to be equal to something, you want an expression for y prime, collect all your y primes together and move everything else to the other side. So in this case, I'm going to move xy prime to the other side. And I'm going to move the 2x to the other side. Why? Because now I'm going to be left with 4y, y prime, minus xy prime equals y minus 2x. طيب هلا مش I want an expression for y prime. So easy. You can simply factor out the y prime. بيطلع لك y prime 4y minus x equals y minus 2x. Take it to the other side. You're gonna now find an expression for y prime, which is y minus 2x over 4y minus x. And this is what they want us to show. Easy. Part A, very easy. Now, part B. The line x equals 1 cuts the curve at 2 points, P and Q. Find the y coordinates of P and Q if P is the point where the tangent to the curve is horizontal. So, they told us that x equals 1 gets you 2 points, P and Q. So how do we find? We need to find their y coordinates. To find it, we simply substitute x equals 1 into x squared plus 2y squared equals 7 plus xy. So I'm going to put part B. Let's substitute x equals 1, right? Because we want to know what are the 2 points. If 1 squared plus 2, we don't know the y, so we can keep it y squared, equals 7 plus 1 times y. So you're going to get 2y squared plus 1 equals 7 plus y. It's a quadratic, so we're going to take everything to the other side. So you're going to get 2y squared minus y minus 6 equals 0. Doing this on your calculator is going to get you 2 solutions. You get 2 and negative 3 over 2. Alright, so you're going to get 2 and negative 3 over 2. Now, which one is for P, which one is for Q? That's the problem. They told you that P, that's why they gave you the extra point of information. P is the point where the tangent to the curve is horizontal. If something is horizontal, what's its slope? 0. So that means the slope of the tangent is 0. If the slope of the tangent is 0, what does that mean? Y prime is equal to what? 0. Okay? So that means you set this here, y minus 2x over 4y minus x. You have to set it equal to 0 because they're saying that for P, the curve is horizontal. If this is equal to 0, you cross multiply, you're going to get that y minus 2x is equal to 0. And therefore, you're going to get y is equal to 2x. And we know that x is how much at this point? 1. So that means y is equal to 2 times 1. So that means y is equal to 2. Which point is this? Which point did I just do? I'm saying the curve is horizontal for which point? P. So now I know that out of the 2 and the negative 3 over 2, the 2 goes for P, with the negative 3 over 2 goes for Q. So now that we know P is for 2 and Q is for negative 3 over 2, we can write this in a smooth way. P is 1 comma 2, Q is 1 comma negative 3 over 2. Cool. Part C, find the equation of the tangent to the curve at Q. How do we find the equation of the tangent? Let's go down here. For part C now, you want to find the equation of the tangent to the curve at Q. How do you find the equation of the tangent? You need to do y is equal to mx plus b. But there's a few things that you need to find. Number 1 is to find, what are the 3 steps? Find your y. Now for Q, we already found our y, and we found the point over here. Step 2 is to find the slope. How do you find the slope? You simply derive and plug in your x. Right? So we need to find y prime at Q. That's going to get you the slope. Step 3 is to use y equals mx plus b. We have our y already, we take that. We need to find our slope. We already have an expression for y prime. Remember, slope, always relate that to y prime or to the derivative. So how do I find my slope? I just need to plug in our q into y prime. Y prime is equal to y minus 2x over 4y minus x. What's y for q? It's negative 3 over 2. So negative 3 over 2 minus 2 times, what's x? X is 1 over 4y minus x. So 4 times negative 3 over 2 minus x is 1. Do this on your calculator. Alright, so you should get half over here. So what does that mean? What does this half represent? My slope. Alright, cool. So now that we have our slope and we have our point, we can simply use y equals mx plus b. So y, negative 3 over 2, is equal to m, the slope, which is half, x, which is 1, plus b, where you're going to get b is equal to negative 2. So that means our equation of the line is y is equal to half x minus 2. Now part D, does the curve have a local maximum, minimum, or neither at point P? How do we know? To do this, it's hard to do the table because we don't really have points, so it's best to find the second derivative. If you recall, we have 2 methods to check whether a point is a minimum or a maximum. The first point is using the table, checking a point before and after. Well, the second way is taking the second derivative. So let's take the second derivative. What is the second derivative? We found y prime to be y minus 2x over 4y minus x. What's y double prime gonna be? You simply derive again. But when I derive, I'm gonna use quotient rule, right? So how do I find y double prime? We use quotient rule. We know originally, let's write it down. Y prime was how much? Y minus 2x over 4y minus x. And now I want to check y double prime, y2, because I want to check if it's maximum or minimum. If y double prime is positive, then it's a minimum. If y double prime is negative, then it's a maximum. Why? Because if y double prime is positive, yani it's smiley face, happy face, so it's concave up, this is a minimum. If y double prime is negative, yani it's sad face, this is a maximum. Okay, that's how you can remember it. Anyways, so this is y prime, y minus 2x over 4y minus x. How do I check y double prime? Quotient rule. U is y minus 2x, v is 4y minus x. If u is this, so u prime is what? Y prime minus 2. If v is this, v prime is 4y prime minus 1. So let's do the derivative. Isn't it u prime v minus v prime u over v squared? Yes, it is. So u prime y prime minus 2, v is 4y minus x, minus v prime u, which is 4y prime minus 1, y minus 2x, over v squared, which is 4y minus x squared. Now, there's a lot of things going on right now, but we have our values. We know that at point P, x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2, and y prime is equal to 0. How did I get all of these? Isn't the point P 1, 2? Yes. So instead of x and y, for point P, I can substitute 1 and 2. So how do I get y prime is 0? Remember, we said that point P is the point where the tangent is horizontal, meaning that then the slope of that, if the tangent horizontally, and its slope is 0. If its slope is 0, yani y prime is 0. So that's why I wrote here y prime is 0. So I can substitute all of these, and we're gonna find how much this is all equal to y double prime. We can find out how much y double prime is equal to. So y double prime will be equal to y prime, we said is 0. So let's substitute everything. 0 minus 2, 4 times 2 minus x, which is 1, minus 4 times 0 minus 1 times 2 minus 2 times 1 over 4 times 2 minus 1 squared. Now we should do this on the calculator and see what we get. Anyway, so you get here a negative answer over here. What did they get here? Negative 2 over 7. I don't know what. Let me try doing this. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 times is positive, so it's negative 14. Okay, Heidi, it's negative 1 times 0. So you get negative 14 over 49, which is, yes, negative 2 over 7. Alright, now negative 2 over 7 is less than 0. So that means if y double prime is less than 0, so therefore the point is a local maximum. You can pause, screenshot. I'll zoom in if you want to screenshot. You see, I have to zoom in twice. That's how much solving there is. No, actually, I don't. Alright, so if you want to screenshot this, be my guest. I'm trying to like show you. So screenshot if you want. Now you can screenshot. Now you can screenshot because it's okay. Anyways, so now let's move on. So we finished this one, example 1. Let's do example 2 over here. Alright, consider the closed curve in the xy plane given by that. Show that dy by dx is equal to that. So same thing, we're gonna do the same thing. I'm recording, yeah? Okay. Let's find the differential. It's gonna be 2x minus 2 plus 4y power 3 y prime plus 4y prime equals 0. Okay, to do this, let's take everything to the other side, and we're gonna get 4y cubed y prime plus 4y prime equals 2 minus 2x. Now we have to collect the y primes, that's why I did this. So you take y prime outside, you get 4y cubed plus 4 equals 2 minus 2x. Hella, take it to the other side. Y prime is equal to 2 minus 2x divided by 4y cubed plus 4. Now, as you can see, we can factor out some stuff, because we can upstairs we can factor out the 2, صح? So it will become 1 minus x. Downstairs we can factor out another 2, so it becomes, actually we can factor out a 4 downstairs. So we're gonna get y cubed plus 1. You can cancel the 2 with the 4, and it comes 2 here. So it becomes y prime is 1 minus x over 2y cubed plus 1. But as you can see over here, they want negative x minus 1. What does that negative represent? If you realize here I have the 1 and then the x. Here I have the x, then the 1. Basically, if you want to switch the orders, you just take a negative outside. Okay, that's take a rule in math. If you want to take, if you want to multiply an equation or take negative 1 outside, you just flip the order. So if you take negative outside, it becomes x minus 1. You flip them over 2y cubed plus 1. Alright, this is simply the expression. It's definitely not a must to take the negative outside, only because they want it in the answer. You have to show that, okay? Don't make that stupid mistake. Alright, find the coordinates of the 2 points on the curve where the line tangent to the curve is vertical. So, when we say that the line tangent to the curve is vertical, yani the denominator of y prime is equal to 0. If you did the grids, then you would know that. Okay? So, the denominator of y prime is equal to 0. So, if tangent is vertical, therefore 2y cubed plus 1 is equal to 0. Cancel on both sides, you can get y cubed plus 1 equals 0. Move it to the other side, you can get y cubed equal to negative 1. So y is equal to negative 1. Cube root of negative 1 is just negative 1. Okay, ما نحن we got y equals negative 1. We want 2 points. طب انت can you have a point without getting x? No. فانت when you get that y is negative 1, you go back to the x, you go back to the start and you substitute it. So it's gonna be x squared minus 2x plus y to the power 4, so negative 1 to the power 4 plus 4y, so 4 times negative 1 equals 5. So you get x squared minus 2x plus 1 minus 4 equals 5. We always take it to the other side, everything to one, because it's quadratic. I want everything on one side. 1 minus 4 here, negative 3. Negative 3, هلا you took the 5, it becomes negative 5. So negative 3 minus 5 minus 8 equals 0. هلا you equation mode on this guy. Let's do it, I'll do it here. X squared minus 2x minus 8. And you get 4 and negative 2. So you get 2 solutions, 4 and negative 2. Now, this makes sense. Now we know why they want 2 points, okay? So it's gonna be 2 points, 4 comma negative 1 and negative 2 comma negative 1, because both of these have the y coordinate of minus 1. So part C, when they're saying that is it possible for this curve to have a horizontal tangent? As we said before, horizontal tangent means y prime is equal to 0, because the slope is 0. At points where it intersects the x-axis. If something's intersecting the x-axis, yani y equals 0. Let's take a look. Let's solve what we know. Okay, part C. The first thing to say is horizontal tangent, yani y prime equals 0. Where's y prime? It's over here. So let's equate it to 0. Y prime is negative x minus 1 over 2y cubed plus 1. Let's equate it to 0. Cross multiply. You're gonna get that negative x minus 1 equals 0. So you're gonna get x minus 1 equals 0. You're gonna get x is equal to 1. Cool. Now we're saying if it's intersecting the x-axis, so y should be 0. So what you should do now is check. When y equals 0, do you get x equals 1? Let's check. Oh no, you know what? Let's do it vice versa. Let's plug in x equals 1 and check, do we get y equals 0? Let's see. Plugging in x equals 1 into our equation up here. What's our equation? Our equation is x squared minus 2x plus y to the power of 4 plus 4y equals 5. Substitute x1. 1 squared minus 2 times 1 plus y to the power of 4 plus 4y equals 5. So it's going to be 1 minus 2, negative 1 plus y to the power of 4 plus 4y equals 5. Take negative 1 to the other side. So you get y to the power of 4 plus 4y equals 6, because I took negative 1 to the other side. Now, how do we solve this? We can't really solve this. Okay, let's say you factor out y. It's going to become y into y cubed plus 4 equals 6. Check. We're supposed to get y equals 0. Test it out. Try y equals 0. 0 times 0 plus 4. How much is that? It's 0. Is it 6? No. So since here, when you substitute 0, you get 0 and not 6. Therefore, y equals 0 is not a root of the equation, and therefore you cannot have a horizontal tangent. I'm just gonna put HT when you cross the x-axis. Let's try another method. Let's continue with another method. I don't know, well, I didn't read the solution here, and I'm doing my ala حسابي. Let's try another method. We agreed that it intersects the x-axis, so y should be 0, and we know that x is equal to 1. So therefore, in other words, 1 comma 0 should satisfy the equation. So it should satisfy the original equation, x squared minus 2x plus y to the power 4 plus 4y equals 5. This should satisfy the original equation. Let's check the left side. Substitute 1 comma 0. Why 1 comma 0? 1 because we found it to be 1, and 0 because they're saying it's crossing the x-axis. Alright? So 1 minus 2 times 1 plus 0 equals 5. Let's test this. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. 0 equals 5. Is this true? No. Therefore, y equals 0 will never... Or no, this equation is not true. Not true. Therefore, 1 comma 0 will not satisfy the original equation, and therefore there will be no points where there is a horizontal tangent crossing the x-axis. Alright, now we're done. No, we're not done. We actually have part D. Okay, let x and y be functions of time that are related by this. At time t1, the value of y is 1 and y prime is 2. Find the value of dx by dt at time t1. Alright guys, this is the same exact thing as that one grid question. Very, very similar. It's just the same thing, but they just change the letters. So they give you this equation, they're telling you at time t1, whatever, this, that. So we can actually do this here. But the thing is, when you derive this, x squared, the derivative of x squared will be 2x x prime. Why is it 2x x prime now? Because they said that it's related to t. Okay, it's not y in terms of x anymore, it's related to t. So when we're deriving with respect to t, we have to put x prime. Okay, this is only in the case where you see the question like this. Anyways, so let me, I don't know how I'm gonna take this down because I have no space. I think I'm gonna continue part D over here. Now, remember in the last time, the first step, see how we have y is 1 and then dy by dt is 2, then it asks us for dx by dt. It would help that you find x. How would you find x? Substitute these values that they gave you and we can find x. X squared minus 2x plus y to the power of 4. They gave me y is 1, so I'm going to put 1 to the power of 4 plus 4y, so 4 times 1 equals 5. Can we find x? Easily we can. X squared minus 2x, 1 to the power of 4 plus 4 times 1 equals 5. Take it to the other side, you're going to get 5 minus 4 is 1. 1 minus 1 equals 0. So you're going to get factor out the x minus 2 equals 0. So you're going to get two solutions, x equals 0 and x equals 2. But so which one do we take? They said over here, x is greater than 0. So that means here we're going to reject this. So x equals 2 is your value. Now knowing that x equals 2, we can derive all of this and then check what dx by dt is. So this is all just a matter of substitute and derive. So what's the derivative of this? X squared will become 2x x prime. Again, because now we're doing it with respect to t. Okay? Whenever you see with respect to t, you have to put it, have to add x prime. Minus, derivative of 2x is 2x prime. Plus y to the power 4 will be 4y to the power of 3 y prime. Plus 4y will be plus 4y prime equals 0. We know what x is. We know what y is. We know what y prime is. We just need x prime. Can we do this? So easy. We can do it. Of course we can do it. 2x x prime يعني 2 times x is 2 times x prime, we don't know it, minus 2x prime, again we don't know it, plus 4, y is how much? Y is 1, أكيد to the power of 3, y prime is 2, plus 4y prime, so 4 times 2 equals 0. This is just math equation. I'm gonna give myself some space over here. 4x prime minus 2x prime plus 4 times 1 times 2, 8, plus 8 equals 0. So you get 2x prime plus 16 equals 0. So you get x prime is equal to negative 8. So dx by dt is equal to negative 8. Let's check this. Let me just check the answer. Yes, you get dx by dt is equal to negative 8. Okay, فهون we finished. We're left with 2 questions. These are the 2 questions of doom. مش 2 questions of doom, بس we need to solve it. Now, over here, this question came in the written copy paste last year. Alright, so you must know how to solve this. تمام. Consider the curve given by y to the power 4 equals xy squared minus 4. Find dy by dx in terms of x and y. Yalla, let's derive. Derive both sides. It's gonna become 4y to the power of 3 y prime. Actually, I'm gonna be a bit organized. I'm gonna start here. Part A. 4y to the power of 3 y prime. And actually, I'm gonna be a bit more organized. dy by dx is equal to 4y to the power of 3 y prime. Equals product, we have to product rule the xy squared, huh? So u is equal to x, v is equal to y squared, so u prime is equal to 1, v prime is equal to 2y y prime. So product rule u prime v, so y squared plus v prime u, 2y y prime times x, so 2x y y prime. So over here this changes into y squared plus 2x y y prime, y squared, sorry, y squared plus 2x y prime, and then 4 is a constant for its derivative is 0. Now we want an expression for y prime. We want an expression dy by dx. So what do? We have to collect them together. So we're going to take this to the other side. So it's going to be 4y cubed y prime minus 2xy y prime equals y squared. Factor out the y prime. You're going to get 4y cubed minus 2xy equal y squared. Take it to the other side. Y prime is equal to y squared over 4y prime minus 2xy. We can make this in simplest form because you have y in all of these, so you can factor out y up and down. So it's going to become y over y into 4y squared minus 2x, and cancel y with y, so it's going to become y over 4y squared minus 2x. Alright, so this is your derivative. Part B. Show that there is no point on this curve where the tangent is horizontal. If the tangent is horizontal, that means y prime is equal to 0. Let's check. Part B. If there is a horizontal tangent, يعني y prime equals 0. يعني y over 4y squared minus 2x must be equal to 0. Cross, you're going to get that y is equal to 0. Y is equal to 0. Let's substitute that up here. Okay, let's substitute that into our point here. Okay, what's the original expression? The original expression is what? Y to the power of 4 equals xy squared minus 4. This is the original expression. Substitute 0. You get 0 equals x times 0 minus 4. So you're going to get 0 is equal to negative 4. And is that true? No. Therefore, no value of no value of the function, or no, there is no value that exists. No value exists at y equals 0 to the function. Alright, so part B easy. Now over here, part C, they're saying let P be the point in the first quadrant. First quadrant, what does first quadrant mean? Yani positive, positive, positive x, positive y. Where the tangent to the curve is vertical. Tangent to the curve is vertical. That means the denominator of y prime equals 0. Right? Find the equation of the line tangent to this curve at P. So we need to find the equation of the tangent. Alright, أول شيء let's find what is the point of P before we can find the equation to the tangent, right? Number one, you need the point of P. What were the steps to finding the equation of the tangent? أول شيء is find your point P, the x and the y. 2 is find the slope. And 3, well actually if it's a line tangent, if it's okay, خلاص I'll get to that later. And then 3 is use y equals mx plus b. But since it's a vertical tangent, it's not going to be y equals mx plus b. I think many of you know that vertical lines exist as this: x is equal to a number, because it's a vertical line, and vertical lines are x equals something. Alright, anyway, so we need to find this point P. How do we do that? We know that since they're saying it's a vertical tangent, denominator of y must be 0. So over here, denominator of y prime, sorry, مش y. Denominator of y prime must be 0. So part C, we know that y prime is y over 4y squared minus 2x. So if the denominator is equal to 0, يعني 4y squared minus 2x equals 0. And you know that we need an expression for y, right? We need an expression for y. So we're gonna set this, take x to the other side, you're gonna get 4y squared is equal to 2x. So y squared is gonna be 2x over 4, which is x over 2. Now you can radical both sides and get an expression that y is equal to radical x plus 2 plus minus. But do you really want to do that? Because over here, in our expression up here, it's y squared and y to the power of 4. So if you have it as y squared, if we know that y squared is equal to x over 2, there's no need to square root it, because we can easily just substitute y squared over here, and y to the power of 4 is just y squared squared. You get what I mean? So you can just do that like that. And no, over here you don't have to square root both sides and get, like, you can do it if you want عادي, plus minus x over 2. But خلاص, I'm gonna, for the sake of explaining, I'm just gonna square root, because many people will get confused. I'm sure people will get confused. Okay, y squared is x over 2, so y is gonna be equal to plus minus radical x over 2. Anyways, so let's substitute that over here. Since these are both even powers, it doesn't matter whether I substitute plus or minus, because it will end up with a positive result since they're both even. Man, can my scroll wheel? Since they're both even powers, it's gonna be completely fine. Okay, whether it's a positive or negative. So let's take this down here. Y to the power of 4 minus, equals xy squared minus 4. Substitute the y, so radical x over 2 to the power of 4 equals x, we don't know x, remember we're trying to find the point for x, y squared, which is radical x over 2 squared. Again, it doesn't matter whether it's plus or minus, because these are both even powers, minus 4. Now over here, this is gonna get me, well, I don't know, everyone does it their own way, but this is gonna be x squared over 4, because actually the radical cancels and gets you square. Then x squared is x squared and 2 squared is 4. Alright, as a walk, everyone has their own way. Equals, over here, x, radical x over 2 squared just cancels the radical. So you're gonna get x times x over 2 minus 4. So let's clean this up a bit. X squared over 4 equals x squared over 2 minus 4. Let's take this to the other side, or actually no, other way around. Let's take this one here, the x squared over 4 to the right and the minus 4 to the left. You're gonna get 4 is equal to x squared over 4, because when you subtract this by this, you get x squared over 4. Cross multiply, you're gonna get x squared equals 16. So that means x is equal to plus minus radical 16, which is 4 and negative 4. So part C, what did they want? Find the equation of the line tangent to this curve. So find the vertical tangent. Which one do we choose? We're gonna choose x equals 4, not the negative one, because they said it lies in the first quadrant. Okay, it has to lie in the first quadrant. So that's why we take the positive x. Okay, this is rejected. So your answer is x is equal to 4. So let's continue هلا with part D. Part D is the same as the last question, same exact thing, so we're gonna go through the same steps, okay? Let's do part D over, I'll do it at the top because I want to still see the question. Okay, for part D, what do? This first step is to find x, okay? How do we find x? We substitute all of this given stuff in the original equation, so we can find x, because if you don't find x, we can't continue something. So we know that y is 2, so it's gonna be 2 to the power of 4 equals x times 2 to the power of 2 minus 4. Anyway, so it's gonna be x 2 squared. Okay, I'm gonna go back. So 2 to the power of 4 equals, you just substitute the y's, the givens that you have. Okay, 2, so 16 equals 4x minus 4. Take 4 to the other side, you're gonna get 4x equals 20. So x is equal to 5. Nice. Knowing that x is equal to 5, can we now find x prime? Yes, now you derive. Okay, but now since we're deriving with respect to t, it's not gonna be the same derivative that you found at the start. Since you're deriving with respect to t, the derivative of x will no longer be 1, it will be x prime now. Okay, anyway, so let's do it. Let's derive this. It's gonna become 4y cubed y prime equals, we're gonna have to product rule this guy, so it's gonna be, this is a 5, not a 25. X equals 5. And I found this x so that I can substitute it later, because without it you're gonna have to go back and do everything again. Okay, so now we're deriving. We derived the y4, we got this, we now need to look at the xy squared. We're gonna product rule it. U is equal to x and v is equal to y squared. If u is equal to x, so u prime is equal to x prime, not 1, it's x prime, because now we're doing it with respect to t. Okay, v prime is 2y y prime. Okay, so we're gonna do u prime v, so y squared x prime, or just x prime y squared, plus v prime u, so x 2y y prime, 2x y y prime. Now we have this expression here, we can just substitute everything. We have y is 2, y prime is negative 1, we found that x is 5, so let's do it. So it's gonna be 4 y cubed, so 2 cubed, y prime is negative 1, equals x prime, which is we don't know it, we're trying to find x prime, y squared, so 2 squared plus 2x, we know x is 5. See, if we didn't find x, then we would be stuck here, we couldn't solve. So 2 times 5 times y, which is 2, y prime is negative 1. Let's do this. هيدي a negative 40 equals هيدي 4 x prime. You get 10 20 negative 20. So you get 4x prime equals negative 20, because you take it to the other side. You get x prime is equal to negative 5. Let's check this answer, see if it's correct. Alright, it is, oh, that ain't the answer I got. Hold up. It was negative 3. Yeah, I made a mistake over here. 8 times 4 is not negative 40, it's negative 32. If you take it, it becomes negative 12. فهيدي it becomes negative 3. I think that's easy. Nothing too hard. Let's continue. Next question, our final question for the ACE calculus bullshit book. Alhamdulillah. Last question, curve C is given by this. Find y prime and find y double prime. This is why I don't fucking like this question, because y double prime is very long. Okay, so let's find y prime first. These are all in terms of x, by the way, so how do we just derive normally? So 2y y prime minus, we have to product rule this. U is equal to 2x, v is equal to y, so u prime is equal to 2, and v prime is equal to y prime. So it's gonna be u prime v, so 2y plus v prime u, so 2xy prime. Okay, so minus 2y plus 2x y prime plus 2x squared equals, hey, shoot, plus 2x squared. I have to derive. 2x squared is 4x equals 0. Nice. So you're going to get what the fuck is this? Why did I write y prime like this? To find y prime, I'll take 2 dots. Okay. Anyways, so 2y y prime minus, let's distribute this minus 2y minus 2xy prime plus 4x equals 0. Now remember, we're trying to find the expression for y prime, so we need to collect the y primes together. So 2y y prime minus 2xy prime equals 2y minus 4x when you take it to the other side. Okay, so it's going to be take y prime outside. You're going to get 2y minus 2x equals 2y minus 4x. Take it to the other side, you're gonna get that y prime is equal to 2y minus 4x over 2y minus 2x. Now we can factor out 2 up and down, so it's gonna be 2y minus 2x over 2y minus x, and you're gonna get that y prime finally is equal to y minus 2x over y minus x. Anyways, so we reached y prime as this. We need now to do y double prime, صح? So how do we do y double prime? This is like the annoying part. If you have y prime as this, how do you find the second derivative? You need to use quotient rule. So yeah, let's do quotient rule. U is y minus 2x. So u prime is y prime minus 2. V is y minus x. So v prime is y prime minus 1. Cool. So what's the expression going to be? It's going to be u prime v, so y prime minus 2. Okay, actually I'm going to need some space, so I'm going to take it down. So what's the expression going to be? U prime v, so let's write it like this. Y double prime equals u prime v, so y prime minus 2 times v, which is y minus x, minus v prime u, which is y prime minus 1 times y minus 2x, over v squared, which is y minus x squared. Now we're gonna continue. We need to distribute everything. So y prime times y is y prime y. Y prime times minus x is minus x y prime. Minus 2 times y is minus 2y. Minus 2 times minus x is plus 2x. Minus, let's distribute these two. Y prime times y is y prime. Y prime times minus 2x is minus 2x y prime. Minus 1 times y is minus y. Minus 1 times minus 2x is plus 2x. All over. You're going to see, guys, now that a lot of stuff is going to get cancelled with each other. Y minus x squared. Now let's distribute the minus. Alright, so it's going to be, let's just rewrite everything, but distribute the minus. All I'm doing is just distributing the minus all over the original denominator, y minus x kilo squared. Alright, now what can we cancel? Y prime y with y prime y. 2x with 2x, and we can simplify a couple of things. We can simplify minus xy prime and 2xy prime. It's going to become xy prime. And then minus 2y plus y is minus y. All over y minus x squared. This is what all of this is equal to the second derivative, y double prime. We want to check now which ones are minimum turning points. Minimum turning points are simply when y prime equals 0, because it's a turning point, right? So let's first find out which ones are the turning points, and then we'll decide which one's the minimum, which one's the maximum. Let's check which ones are minimums, which ones are my turning points. How do we check turning points? We get our expression for y prime, and we set it equal to 0. So y minus 2x over y minus x must be equal to 0. Cross, you're gonna get y minus 2x equals 0, so y is equal to 2x. Cool. Y is equal to 2x. Always remember, when you're doing this implicit bullshit, you need an expression in like one thing like this, so now when you go back up to the original equation, you can substitute it. Our original equation was y squared minus 2xy plus a d 2x squared equals 4. Alright, cool. Now we know y is 2x, so let's just substitute that. So it's going to be 2x squared minus 2x times y, which is 2x, plus 2x squared equals 4. So we're going to get 4x squared minus 4x squared plus 2x squared equals 4. I just simplified this. Okay. Cancel. X squared equals 2, so x is equal to plus minus radical 2. Cool. Now, x is equal to plus minus radical 2. How much is y if we have plus minus radical 2? y is equal to 2x. Yeah, so let's find our y. So y is equal to 2 radical 2 and negative 2 radical 2. So we have 2 points. Let's write them down. The first point is radical 2 comma 2 radical 2. Second point is negative radical 2 comma negative 2 radical 2. Now we need to choose which one is the minimum, which one is the maximum. How do we choose that? We found an expression for y double prime. So if we found an expression for y double prime, we can simply substitute these points and see if y double prime is positive, yani happy face, yani it's a minimum. If y double prime is negative, yani sad face, it's a maximum. So let's check that. Alright. At this point, at both these points, y prime is equal to what? 0, because these are turning points, huh? Okay? At both these points, y prime equals 0. So let's go back to our expression for y double prime. Why is y prime equal to 0? Again, because these are turning points. Also, I need to find them. We set y prime to be 0. Okay? Y double prime is equal to x y prime minus y over y minus x all squared. We found this to be our expression for y double prime. So let's check. For the first point, root 2 comma 2 radical 2, we know y prime is 0. So let's just substitute. X is what? Radical 2 times 0 because y prime is 0 minus y, so minus 2 radical 2 over y minus x squared, so 2 radical 2 minus radical 2 squared. Anyways, so we reach this here, and if you do this on a calculator, I don't know what you get, but you get a negative answer. Okay? Now, let's try for the second point over here. If this is negative, by the way, that means, what point did we use here? We used radical 2 comma 2 radical 2. So therefore, radical 2 comma 2 radical 2, since it's negative, that means it is a local maximum. Okay, remember if y double prime is negative, yeah, it's a maximum. So let's check the other one. Again, it's the same rule, xy prime minus y over y minus x squared. In this case, x is negative 2, negative radical 2. Y prime is still 0 because these are still turning points, and at turning points, y prime is always 0. Minus y, so minus 2 radical 2 over y minus x squared. So minus 2 radical 2 minus x, which is minus radical 2 squared. Now, minus minus gets you plus 2 radical 2, and over here you get something squared. Now this is, if you do this on your calculator, you're gonna get a positive answer. If it's positive, that means this is a minimum. A local minimum. So which one's the minimum? This is the local minimum. Alright, so now that once we got this to be the local minimum, we can continue to part C. They're saying, consider in the same plane, they gave us a line, x plus y equals k, and they said, determine the value of k for which L is tangent to C. Now this line here, if it's tangent, what is the slope of this line, by the way? X plus y equals k isn't, to find the slope, you need to have y alone. So y is equal to negative x plus k. So actually the slope of this line is negative 1. So we want to find the value of k for which L is tangent to C. So that's why the slope is negative 1, because you have to move it to the right side. Now I want to find the value of k. To do that, I need to find an x and y coordinate. Now, knowing that the slope of the tangent is negative 1, what does that tell me? If the slope of the tangent is negative 1, that means y prime is equal to negative 1. So we go back down to our expression, so let's put part C. Y prime, we know it must be equal to negative 1. What's y prime? We found it over here. Y minus 2x over y minus x. So equals y minus 2x over y minus x. Cross multiply, you're going to get negative y plus x equals y minus 2x. So let's collect everything together. You're going to get 3x equals 2y. So you're going to get y is equal to 3 over 2x. Cool, you now know that y is equal to 3 over 2x. So knowing that y is equal to 3 over 2x, we can go up here and substitute the y with that. So let's copy down the equation. It's y squared minus 2xy plus 2x squared equals 4. Y is equal to 3 over 2x, so it's going to be 3 over 2x squared minus 2x times 3 over 2x plus 2x squared equals 4. 3 over 2x squared is 9 over 4x squared minus 2 and 2 cancel, 3x squared plus 2x squared equals 4. Heidi gets you 5 over 4 x squared equals 4. Cross 5x squared equals 16. Equals 16 over 5. So now you know x squared is 16 over 5. So x is equal to plus minus radical 16 over 5. Now knowing that x is equal to this, we can now find two different y values. So y is equal to 3 over 2 radical 16 over 5, which is, by the way, 6 over radical 5. And the second y is 3 over 2 negative radical 16 over 5, which is negative 6 over radical 5. Okay, do it on your calculator, you'll get this. No, and actually the calculator will not give you this. The calculator will give you this 6 radical 5 over 5. Over here it's going to give you negative 6 radical 5 over 5. These are the same thing. Anyway, so you now have your x and y value. So determine the value of k. So over here you substitute it and you get, we said x plus y equals k. So over here radical 16 over 5 plus 6 radical 5 over 5 equals k. Let's just do this on our calculator. You get 2 radical 5. Let me just make sure of this from the answer key. So yeah, it's correct. Plus minus 2 radical 5, and that's what we got. We got our first one as 2 radical 5. Now let's do the second solution. Remember, we have two solutions here. So negative radical 16 over 5 plus negative 6 radical 5 over 5 equals k. And you're going to get k is equal to negative 2 radical 5. So these are the two k solutions. Now we see that L is normal to C. So L is, I'm still recording, yeah? L is normal to C, and my voice is still, yeah, alhamdulillah, okay. I'd kill myself if this was a bad, if I didn't kill myself in like a game. YouTube, please don't demonetize me. Okay, L is normal to C at one of the points of the intersection. Okay, if it's normal, same thing. Which we got the slope is negative 1, that's if it's tangent. If it's normal, you simply take negative 1 over that slope and you get 1. So the slope now, instead of being negative 1, is 1. So we just repeat all these steps. But instead of equating y prime to negative 1, we're not going to be equating it to 1. So let's do that. Y prime is equal to 1. So that means y minus 2x over y minus x is equal to 1. Why? Because this is the derivative. This is y prime, ID. Y minus 2x over y minus x. We found it up. A couple pages scrolled up, you'll find it. Anyways, cross multiply. You're gonna get y minus x equals y minus 2x. Oh, but that ain't right. Hold up. Okay, yeah. So you're gonna end up getting an expression for x. You're gonna get that the y's cancel out. So you're gonna get over here that negative x equals 0. So therefore x equals 0. So if x equals 0, that means substitute into the original point here and see what you get for y. So let's take a look. What's the equation? Y squared, I forgot. Hold on. Y squared minus 2xy plus 2x squared. Let me check. Y squared minus 2xy plus 2x squared equals 4. Substitute the x equals 0, and this goes, and you get y squared equals 4. So y is equal to 2. Is the answer 2 or radical 2? Hey, it's 2. Hey, so y squared equals 4, and y is equal to, obviously, two answers, 2 and negative 2. And we know that x is equal to 0. Type. Remember, we're looking for the k value. And what was the relationship between x, y, and k? That x plus y equals k. So don't forget that x plus y equals k. So over here, for y equals 2, let's do x plus y equals k. So that means 0 plus 2 equals k, and k is therefore 2. Now let's try it with the solution over negative 2. So x plus y equals k. Again, so 0 minus 2 equals k. So therefore k is equal to negative 2. So k equals 2 and negative 2. That's it. We got our k. 2 and negative 2, plus minus 2. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck in your final exam.